Just about, I think, 8 or 10 months back, when Dr. DeBroy, Vibhav and Conor were sitting together, and they're at the back there, and we said, okay, now let's do some photographs and let's write something about culture of India. And that is where this book came into being. But there's something very special in this collaboration. In fact, Vibhav, I must admit, is my son, and who is going to be presenting about this. And Conor is my foster son, as I say it. In fact, if you don't know, Conor's dad used to be the general with the US Army. He was the person who headed the Afghanistan forces for US. So he comes from the military family as well. But as I write in my book, I did not visit the Jyotirlingas, but I say, like, in fact, Vibhav was born on the Mahashivratri day. So I always say, if I did not have the chance to look at the Jyotirlingas myself, this is the opportunity for me to see them through the eyes of my son. And maybe for the next few lifetimes, or all the lifetimes that I have, when I will actually want to cherish and visit and view what Shiva is all about. But without further ado, can I request Vibhav and Conor to come and talk about this whole process?
Thank you for the introduction, Papa. So, yes, today we are here to talk about Shiva, Jyotirlingams, and I think we can start, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Vibhav. Thank you, Ahmed. Greetings, everybody. This is such an awesome and stimulating event. So many distinguished people. So, Vibhav and I are photographers. We met at the Rochester Institute of Technology in New York in 2021. And not only do we share an interest in photography, but we also have a sort of personal, spiritual, and religious inclination, sort of foundational to our art. So next slide. We got to tag team this, and why we're reading off back and forth. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So last year, the Institute of Competitiveness approached us to do a book about these 12 Jyotirlingams and to make a visual document on the subject of Shiva, because a definitive Jyotirlingam book had not been compiled. So Penguin will be publishing this volume in June. And the principal text is written by Dr. DeBroy, who you just saw, and it's full of a set of photographs, which also can be seen in the slideshow exhibition down the hall. So the subject compelled both Vibhav and myself in a deeply personal way beyond the task of just making pictures, because we wanted to experience and learn what life is like in this massively diverse country like India, and to explore our own faith along with that of the greater culture. So in this spirit, we want to present these pictures as a way for you all to experience some of these places, which will allow you for this short moment to consider their significance.
As Conor was saying, because of our faith and belief in Shiva and inclination towards the artistic pursuit based in spirit, we wanted to travel to these ancient Jyotirlingam sites to capture this experience of darshan, as you can see in this photograph. So darshan, for those of you who don't know, is a prominent cultural phenomenon in India that means a sacred visitation. It comes from a Sanskrit word which means to see. So it's the central act of visiting a temple. Whenever we go to a temple, whenever any devotee goes to a temple, it's said that they go to get a darshan. It is a reciprocal kind of experience where something is shared between the person who is viewing and what is viewed. And and it's used in a colloquial sense also, but it's mainly foundational to a religious visitation. It is a kind of a metaphysical connection that is based in sight, but it's by the act of seeing, giving and receiving. As artists that work with cameras, seeing is fundamental to our artistic creation. We use the camera, we take photographs, we see the world, the sense of the eye. On this journey through these Jyotirlingams, we were there to sort of feel this connection and sort of see Shiva. When going for a darshan, one sees the deity, as you can see in these photographs, but is also much more than that, in the sense that you're also experiencing and visualizing these rituals that happen in these spaces. As you can see in this photograph, we see this ritual, this very ancient ritual of lighting the lamps at an evening aarti at a temple, in Ujjain. It's in the state of Madhya Pradesh in central India. This is a sort of like a performance ritual that is done every day, where the pandits, specifically these pandits who have been living at these temples generationally, they climb these almost 60 feet high stone lanterns every day in the evening, and they light the diyas on this sort of stone lantern with the fire. All of these rituals, all of these experiences are happening with the collective. And I think that is the most important part of this conversation, is that all of these experiences are happening in participation with the collective. The darshan is an individual experience, but it is happening with a lot of people around you. It is happening with the collective, with the group. This act of darshan has been a part of the collective consciousness of India for as long as India has existed. Finally, as artists and observers, we are working with our hands, and we are bringing forth images through and from this process. It truly did feel like a divine blessing to visit these temples, and we will talk more about them soon.
So this is a map of India. I'm sure you all recognize that, and all the points are the different Jyotirlingams, and each one is a temple in a different region. Now the one in the farthest north, Kedarnath, we actually did not make it to because of the monsoon. It was so heavy, so if you noticed that something was missing, you're right. But
so just to talk a little bit about these, specifically about these temples that we did visit, this is Kashi. For those of you who don't know, Kashi is also known as Varanasi. Kashi is known as the city of death, and it is literally the meaning of Kashi means shining. So it is in this beautiful dichotomy that this place exists, because death is celebrated as life in this place. That is one of the most beautiful experiences you can have there. This is another place called Rameshwaram. This is in the south. This is a place where it is believed, according to the Ramayana, when Ram and Sita came back from killing Ravan in Lanka, this is where Sita consecrated the lingam, and it is still believed that it is in this, that it's the same lingam that is worshipped, the Shiva lingam that is worshipped in this temple. When you have a place like this is called Bhima Shankar. This is in the Sahyadri hills of Maharashtra. This is on the Western Ghats, tropical region, very much like California. Very beautiful place, very beautiful weather, the sea, the mountains. This is Trimbakeshwar. Again, this is in Maharashtra. This is a place called Grishneshwar. For a lot of people might know the Ellora and Ajanta caves. So Grishneshwar is in the Ellora, is where the Ellora caves are. A very interesting experience that we had where we were in this temple, and in this temple you have to go bare-chested, so you can't be wearing clothes in the temple. So when you enter the main sanctum, you have to take your shirts off. And it's also only men can enter the temple in that sense. And the main Pandit, who was the head priest, head Pandit, he told us that Shiva sleeps here. So this is the place where Shiva sleeps. And it was very beautiful, because we reached this place in the evening, and we could see this, like the evening aarti, and that's when we had the darshan. Another beautiful place called Omkareshwar. This is on an Om-shaped island in the Narmada River. Again, this is in Madhya Pradesh. Narmada River is a very sacred river. It's said that each stone on the river bed is like a Shiva lingam. It's called a Bana lingam. And the last one to share is this place called Somnath. Now, a very funny thing happened, but we were trying to get a photograph of this temple, and we were all like maneuvering around the space. And as you see the wall in this photograph, the temple complex is behind that wall. And we were just trying to find a building to climb onto to take a photograph of the main temple. And we were just maneuvering, and we turned around the corner, and I saw this camel just standing over there in front of the temple, and he was just confronting the camera, and we photographed. It was just one of those beautiful moments. And that's the Somnath temple. There's a very long history of the Somnath temple with invasions and all of those things. This is on the Arabian Sea. Very beautiful place. You can literally listen to the water as you're inside the temple. When you're doing a darshan, you can hear the waves. So it is a very sensory, auditory experience. It's on the water. Very beautiful place.
yes, in Somnath, it is amazing. So our goal as documentarians is first to show what things really look like. Okay, and so we took all these pictures on the iPhone, which actually allowed us to do that very discreetly and easily in low light and, packed conditions, wide angle. So the point of this is to create an archive of these specific places and subjects at this specific time. And by going to all 12 Jyotirlingam, we saw many sides of the country. We also wanted to capture the human angle with focus not just on architecture, but on its inhabitants and their way of life in each place. So Hindu culture and religion involves ancient traditions, which are very alive in the current day. And through the living tradition of participation, the spiritual practice is a divine and powerful societal force unto itself. So it's clear that this powerful spiritual fervor has been exploited by religious institutions for economic gain, as is the nature of religion, which in the modern day, naturally, has created a robust industry for religious tourism. And tourism can only happen at a cost, and the surrender of one's material is part of that process. So we're photographers, and we're working both as participants and observers. Vibhav took this photograph of the cremation cart in Benares. I'm in there, see if you can pick me out. And this is where Shiva's first wife burned herself, and the fire there has never gone out. So this is a place Mark Twain, the American writer, famous satirist, visited, and he wrote about in his book Following the Equator in 1897. Some aspects of this probably have not changed much since then. And Twain wrote that Benares is older than history. He talks about the rituals extensively, and he has a pretty good bit about how the pundits there have a monopoly on the fire in the ancient city. But, as a satirist, he's also a moralist in disguise. And one thing that he wrote really struck me, which is this line, which is, irreverence is disrespect for someone else's God. So if you flip it, you could say that reverence is respect for someone else's God. So you get a statement of humility that is much greater than personal belief, but one of collective faith.
Talking about this idea of collective faith, surrender is key to this kind of participation. Surrender to the crowds, surrender to the heat, very, very hot. Surrender to the will and darshan of Shiva. It is this which can generate profound awareness and unity with the sense of the divine as it is experienced by the people of India. All in all, our work, our contribution is about embracing, participating, observing, recognizing, sharing, and thus presenting a vision of this collective consciousness as it proliferates in India. Thank you. Namaste.